Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our review of What We Do in the Shadows, Season 5, Episode 10, the finale, exit interview. Who wants Panera? That's really one of the message. Panera Bread having a really good night, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I've never had Panera Bread. I have celiac, so it's not for me, but I've heard that it's quite good.
I haven't had Panera Bread either, and I don't even have celiac disease. I could,
Oh.
I could. It's just never been that convenient for me, though. According to Pat and Oswald, they are all over the place. I really like this finale a lot. Like, I think there's gonna be some divided opinions, I think, on some of the choices that have been made
Mhm.
with Guillermo, but for me, I felt like this was a really satisfying end of the season. I feel like every one of the main characters all had a couple of moments, and I don't think anybody really kind of got lost amidst everything that was going on. And I'm here to have a good time more than anything else. And I just had a really good time watching it.
Yeah, everybody had some sort of time in the spotlight. Even Derek, Topher came back. Like everybody had something.
Yeah, and so we can walk out of this feeling pretty happy.
Mhm.
You know, it'd make us feel really happy if you hit that subscribe button because we are very close to 65,000. We are so appreciative of everyone for your support. We have been doing videos here on YouTube for years talking about so many different shows, and thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed already.
Absolutely. We have a lot of really fun stuff that's going to be coming up over the next few months. We've got The Walking Dead. Daryl Dixon's going to be coming up, and we're going to be covering Our Flag Means Death is going to be coming up soon. There's no actual premiere date as of this recording, but it's
Yeah,
seemingly coming up in October. And I mean, that show is great. So
yeah.
hit that subscribe button and stick with us.
Okay, so we'll just start with Guillermo because I think there's going to be some people out there who are disappointed that Guillermo is not a vampire even anymore, even though he briefly was throughout this finale. And for me, I like that there is a non-vampire on the show. Like, I like that there is some sort of difference between him and some other characters. It's Heroes was a show that was really good for like one season, and then everybody got superpowers, and then it was just like, okay, it's not special anymore. I don't care about anybody. It's like I being a vampire should be special, and it's not for everyone. Even if Guillermo thought it was right for him, you try something out sometimes, and you're just like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, the thing about it for me is just I didn't want to see it end with him being a vampire because of Derek. That's not satisfying that he just paid somebody to make him a vampire. For me, I think his choice to become a vampire needs to have a deeper meaning, not just I want to be a vampire.
Yeah,
Being a vampire is not as easy as he thought it was going to be, even though we have seen Guillermo kill all kinds of people, bring people to their death at the vampires. It wasn't that surprising that he was at a point where it was like, okay, you need to kill this person. You need to actually feed on somebody. That he was just like, I just don't feel okay about it. That I think there needs to be something deeper in him. And Tinfoil Hat, I think that's going
mhm,
to come out in season 6. It is renewed for
yeah,
season 6, so it's coming back, that it's going to be more about the companionship between him and Nandor. That if he ever decides that he really wants to be a vampire, that it's going to be because of Nandor, and that it's, Nandor because of him, that they want to be together, whether that's romantic or it's friendship or it's companionship. This ensures that they get to be companions forever.
yeah. I just really like that. Okay, now we can sort of reset things a little bit, but also still make them different
Mhm.
because, for most of the show before the season, Guillermo was still pining away at wanting to be a vampire. Like, that was really his end goal. So, what does it look like moving forward now where he is a human? He can be, still very close to Nandor and these other vampires, but not really want that anymore.
Yeah, that's the biggest question mark for me. That's like, okay, he's been turned back into a human. Nandor came up with a way to make that happen. And then it's like, okay, so he's back to being a human, but is he back to being a familiar? Because part of,
Yeah.
being in service to your master is that your master will eventually turn you into a vampire. So if that's not there anymore, then why is he doing this?
Can he just be bodyguard? Can he go back to just maybe he'll come up with a new position for himself and he'll just be like, I am a vampire's assistant or assistant to the regional vampire or like something that works for him and still allows him to be around them. Because I think, he still wants to be around the vampires, even if he doesn't want to be one right now. And I think you're right, though, that if he ever does want to go back and become one, having it be more emotional reason, because I want to spend, the rest of my immortality with Nandor, that's way more sense than I just want to be a vampire for the sake of being a vampire.
Yeah, I feel like they've really set that up because when we started this episode, of course, Guillermo was on the run. Nandor was looking for him at Panera Bread, trying to find him to kill him or whatever. But all of the other vampires, Derek included, all came to be with Guillermo. And seeing the household, Colin, Naja, Laszlo, all kind of like saying goodbye to him with the exit interview and being like, hey, you know what? Like, we really became close to you over all these years. And no, not having you with us is going to be really weird. And then for Guillermo on his side being like, man, I thought becoming a vampire was going to make me closer with them, that I was going to be with them forever. But now it's like, now I'm being pushed out because I have to, because I made this decision.
The whole first half of this episode, like the second half was very good, don't get me wrong. The first half is lights out. Like it is, I loved every second of it. I love these individual scenes with these vampires so much because they all felt in character, or whether it was Naja leaving and going to spend time with the people down the hall, whether it was Colin Robinson asking like the most banal questions possible in his exit interview. My guy Laszlo, what's wrong with you, Laszlo? You do not need to be down this bad. And just all of it was just so unbelievably funny and yet meaningful. And Nandor at Panera Bread was so unbelievably funny.
No, it was really touching. And even Naja, especially where she came in and she saw the way that Guillermo was talking to Derek, and that, she's still a lot about having some sort of respect for being a vampire. Where I know, sometimes Nandor and Laszlo are like, woo, whatever. Yeah. She was very much like, you can't talk to Derek like that. Like, Derek's the person who turned you. You chose this. He is the person who turned you. If something happens to him, something happens to you. Like, you can't treat him without respect.
Yeah, and I think it's something that, once again, Guillermo didn't fully sort of realize or understand or want to really think about when he made this decision, because he made this decision so impulsively.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk Patton Oswalt now, who becomes the latest in the tremendous What We Do in the Shadows guest star list.
I was laughing so hard when Nandor was like, oh, you're an actor. What were you in? Ratatouille. He picks something that you just can't see his face in. I just died.
I think as a diehard Ratatouille fan as well, it's like one of my 3 or 4 favorite Pixar movies. It's like, you could have said The King of Queens, Patton. You were in like you have so many live. Why are you picking an animated movie?
I love that he picked something that didn't show his face. It was so funny.
And then also Nandor being like, "Do you know John Slattery?" It was so funny and ridiculous. And Patton's response being like, I don't know him, but he seems like a really nice guy. And them eating in Panera Bread, Nandor realizing that there is more than one Panera Bread.
Yeah, and we end up at this situation where by the end of it, he tells Nandor, listen, like, you really sound like you don't want to kill your friend, and there is another path, and that path is forgiveness, that you guys can talk it out, work it out, and, move forward from that. Nandor's decision to that is to throw him off the roof and kill him. But then he has his own realization where he's like, oh, we were also developing a friendship, and now I don't feel that great about that decision. So I guess it worked out.
You guys sacrificed Patton Oswalt for the greater good of this show, this is the most What We Do in the Shadows thing ever, where I think we've all spent all season long trying to figure out, okay, how is Nandor going to be able to forgive Guillermo? Because none of us thought that they were actually going to die. Like, that's not the sort of show that this is. So we all kind of figured, okay, they're going to figure out some sort of way to get to this point. There's no way any of us could have ever predicted that Patton Oswalt was going to be killed, and then that was going to be the way that this worked. But it makes perfect sense because Nandor is an emotional puppy in a lot of ways, and until he actually feels something, he doesn't really realize it.
Yeah, he has a really hard time with that, and talking things out doesn't always work for him. Instead, sometimes he needs something like that to happen. And it works. So he shows up at Guillermo's mom's house and gives him a call and is basically like, I'm at your mom's house, come over or else. And that's the thing that sends Guillermo over there. And they do have this really intense back and forth of, am I going to kill you? No, I'm not. I've decided I'm not going to. This is why I don't believe you. Where they really get to this point of like, okay, we trust each other.
That was really nice, really needed. I
Yeah.
could have used a big long hug. Like I could have used just a little bit something more there. This is sort of warm my heart after all of this, but we got something. We got okay.
Nandor's not a hugger.
You can be a hugger for this moment, and just give it to us.
They're saving it for season 6.
Okay, that's fine. I'm glad that, of course, that they're gonna be moving into season 6 with a better relationship. Nobody wanted to see them at odds.
Yeah, for sure. And it was nice then to see, Nandor brings him back to the house. Is like, I know how this is actually going to work. This is how we're going to turn him into a vampire. He needs to actually just drink human blood. That hasn't happened for him yet. They give it to him, full vampire. Like, it was really nice to see that happen, even if it was just temporary to see him be like, I have all the power. So good.
In between that and then just like Naja and Laszlo's reaction to it was so funny because it's like, yeah, okay, we get it,
We've all been here.
Yeah, we've all been there. It was just a really good encapsulation, I think, of who these characters are at this point, what they value, what they believe in. Also, the fact that they really didn't learn anything from what happened with the guide in episode 9. Like, they're already excluding her again after all of that. I do hope they go somewhere else with the guide moving into next season, so we're not just hitting the same theme again and again and again. But I feel like they're going to, because this show has always evolved in some form based on what they've done in the past.
So Nandor decides to sort of take him under his wing and take him out so that he can start to actually feed on humans, so that he can really get that next step. And that is where we end with a lot of this, where Guillermo really just can't do it. And he even says to himself, he's like, oh yeah, I've brought people over for the vampires to eat. Oh yeah, I've, buried bodies. Yeah, I've killed a bunch of vampires. So like, I have done these types of things, but now that I'm like actually here to actually take somebody's life, like I'm unable. And Nandor really sees it, and he runs with that in a way that he knows that he just doesn't have what it takes, at least at this point, to be able to do what he has to do to be able to sustain himself. And that he thinks that Guillermo really wants to go back to being a human. So he puts together this elaborate ceremony to ask him straight out, do you want to be vampire? Do you want to be human? And Guillermo's like, I want to be human. Okay, then you need to kill Derek. Derek! Oh my goodness.
This ceremony was, everything about it was over the top, but what happened to Derek made me very sad. But then at the end of the day, Derek gets another chance anyway. It's all fine. Everything is just fine, right?
Yep, the necromancer's back.
Oh, they had such a huge cast in this episode. The necromancer, Baron makes like a short appearance.
The sire was there.
Yeah, you've got like all of Nandor's like hybrid babies that are there. It's like everybody is here to sort of further along this journey where, okay, we come out of this, there's not really anybody we have to say goodbye to. Instead, it's just sort of we're saying hello to new versions of them. And there is something fun that comes along with that.
Yeah, it's kind of strange coming out of the finale where everything's wrapped up really nicely. There isn't really a big cliffhanger where it's like, oh, what's going to happen going into the next season? Like, there really is a clean slate. My only biggest question just is, what's the relationship with Nandor and Guillermo now? Like, is he still his familiar? If there's no, he doesn't want to be a vampire anymore. How does this actually work in the household now? Like, what is Guillermo's purpose with this group?
That story is more than enough to have me excited for whatever is coming up next. Like, they could have done a big cliffhanger and I would have been like, yay, but it's like, I enjoyed this episode so much that
So much.
like, even I'll give a little bit of a medal here to Colin Robinson, who gave my favorite vampire Colin Robinson line of quite possibly the season at the sight of everything that was going on with the vampires. He's just like, wine can turn millionaires into billionaires. It's a Colin, if you really want to drain people completely to the point where they can never have any energy again, trade it out and be like, you know how crypto can turn you from a millionaire to a billionaire? No, it's just like it was so ridiculous and it was so true for a lot of just like really rich elite people just bragging about why. Now, Colin was great in this episode. Everybody was great in this episode.
I'm so sad that the show is over. This season went by in a blink. And I mean, having 2 episodes as the finale back to back, I mean, we could have had another week, but we're here, guys. So we're all going to be just waiting on season 6 to come around. I mean, as of this recording, there's still the writer's strike and the actor's strike. So who knows when that's really going to come around. But at least we know we are getting more of this.
Yes. We can be very, very thankful about that.
Very thankful.
Well, we will be very thankful if you guys hit the subscribe button. Help us get the 65,000. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our patrons for your support, and we will see you here next time.